ladies and gentlemen, friends from around the world. Once again, I am so excited, so happy that we have gathered again today on the Change Makers Forum. Um, as most of you are aware, Africa is confronted with a myriad of challenges which have beset the continent growth and development since the time of independence from colonial rule. Different approaches to finding solutions to these challenges have been portrayed, but without much sources. It is against this backdrop that the Jacobs-Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies, in partnership with the Academy of African Scholars for Social Change, introduced Change Makers Forum, a platform where scholars becomes a catalyst to promote positive social change. The 30 minutes once a month episode is aired on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and on our website. The show seeks to address global issues on leadership, social change, and we bring guests from with a diverse backgrounds, including but not limited to entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, publishers, activists, diplomats, gender advocates, entertainers, among others, to talk about positive social change. And so today I am so excited and so happy that I am going to have the opportunity of talking to one of my best friends, someone who is doing a lot of work around the world. And so after this quick commercial break, when we come back, I will introduce our guest to you, and you'll be amazed the amount of work she has done and contributed to humanity. Stay in and we'll be right back.
Dr. Joyce Faraja Kundabantu, and I'm the founder and CEO of African Gazo Foundation. African Gazo Foundation exists to bring change by supplying girls with a free education. Our mission is to provide education to as to many girls as possible, for we believe that by educating these girls, education will not only benefit them, but it also benefit their nations, their communities, and their families.
I am Sandrine Nuera. I am in class 8. I come from a family of 9 members from DRC, Congo. That is my parents and 7 siblings. We are 5 girls and 2 boys. I would like to appreciate the African Girls of Hope Foundation for the support you have given me. You have paid my fees, and my hopes of a brighter future is guaranteed. I'm confident that my goals of becoming a doctor will one day come true.
Many of our girls are orphaned by war. These are the girls that have gone through different atrocities, different wars, and different circumstances in their lives.
I'm in class 7. I come from a family of 8 members, 6 girls and 2 parents. Marlington is in Bungoma, one of the most remote areas in the country. I was taken by my aunt who took me when I was young, and she came to live with me in Nairobi at her place to support me because my parents were having challenges in paying fees. Most of the time I was sent home because of fees. When I grow up, I would like to be a journalist. I appreciate African Girls Hope Foundation for support, and I promise to work extra hard as a way of showing my appreciation and earn good results. Thank you very much, and may God bless you and bless the work of your hands as you continue helping girls to achieve their goals and pursue their dreams.
These girls have gone through a lot of difficulties, but as an organization, we believe that we can bring hope and bring smiles back to their faces. Join us, support us, and let's help the most vulnerable in our community. God bless you.
These girls need our help. We need to support as many girls as possible. That's our mission. But we can do it by ourselves. We need your help. We need to stand together and give hope to these girls. Let's stand together as we transform the lives of these vulnerable girls and young women who are the future generation of our nations.
From our quick break, and I am now about to introduce our guest for today. Once again, you are watching the show Changemakers Forum, an initiative of the Jacobs-Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies. So today we have a very good friend of mine, as I mentioned earlier on. Her name is Edith Kachale-Banda. Edith has 10 years experience of women's empowerment, youth empowerment, and rural development. She's a co-founder of the following initiatives: Market Women Activities and Initiatives that has 550,000 members under the Joyce-Banda Foundation, as Director of Southern African Humanities Global, as Director of Africa and Africa Back. She's a member of the Preserving Indigenous Language African team, and Edith is also the Managing Director of the Joyce-Banda Foundation International. I am so happy to welcome you to our show today. Edith, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Great. So I want us to jump straight to our conversation today, and so let's begin our discussion by talking a bit about the Joyce-Banda Foundation International. You know, I have read and I've heard all about the wonderful initiatives and the charity, as well as the philanthropic work that you and the organization is doing in Malawi and its surrounding countries. You are also the managing director. What inspired the formation of the foundation, and what actually inspired you to assume the role of a managing director of the foundation?
Well, once again, like I said, thank you so much for having me. And I mean, you inspire me a lot, and your programs, you come up with these programs and give some of us an opportunity to tell about ourselves and what we've done. So I appreciate that. I thank you.
Thank you.
I actually started the Joyce-Banda. I started working with the Joyce-Banda Foundation in 2009. But the Joyce-Banda Foundation itself has been around since 1997.
Wow.
And so I relocated to Malawi in 2009. The foundation itself was started by my mother, who is Joyce-Banda. At that time, she had just been elected as vice president of Malawi, and she needed somebody to run what she had started before. And so that's how I came into it. I can say that, my mom is one of those who kind of throws you in the deep end and you start to swim. So there was no time to train me really, because she was busy with the office. And so I came in, picked up from where she left off, and started new programs, and we grew and grew. And I know that when I also came in with the help of herself, we reached over 1.2 million beneficiaries at the foundation.
Wow. That's a lot. a lot
A lot of people, yeah,
people
a
to
lot of
reach.
people.
Wow, that's
Yes.
interesting. Good. Okay, so well, I have known you to be a very strong advocate of women empowerment. Recently, the world celebrated the UN campaign against all form of violence against women, and
Yeah.
just recently, we also celebrated the International Women Day. It is perceived that many of the gender-based violence in our societies, if I may, has been normalized uh, by our society, and especially in Africa. Now, in your opinion, um, how can we continue to push the women agenda, and even more importantly, how can we denormalize such behaviors that has become a societal accepted norm?
I think that the first thing is education. Most of the things, for me, what I've seen, like at the foundation, we operate on 5 pillars. And one of the second pillar, our pillar is education for the girl child. There's certain cultural differences, traditional cultural differences that we have especially in the African cultures, that tend to be normal if you grow up in that society. But, when you educate that girl, it's like almost you open their eyes. Because most of these traditions come from way before, from back then, and nobody questions them. Only when you start to open your eyes, you start to question, to say, well, wait a minute, why did we do that? But also, we can't expect our partners from the West to come and change that, which usually they'll come and try to change, but they need to partner with somebody on the ground, because that somebody is going to be able to relate to that person, the indigenous person on the ground who practices these things in order to change them. So some of these gender-based violence, sometimes even the men think it's normal. In Malawi, we use the traditional leaders a lot, the community leaders, the chiefs. We use them a lot. So it's sensitizing, starting with them, because here they are the custodians of the community, and you start off with sensitizing them, with advocacy in the rural areas. I think that's where it starts. Like I said, once you also educate that girl child, one of our pillars also is leadership, and we do believe that when women are educated or when they're in leadership positions, they tend to look out for issues that deal with women and children. And so for me, the number one issue is the education part, and we need to educate, but we also can't leave our boys behind. So we talk about girl child, but there's also boys that are being left behind. And so we also have to be sensitive about that, because we can't just be talking to the girls, then we're talking to ourselves. So we need to include the boys and the men in our discussions. When we discuss this gender-based violence, we have to talk to the men.
Wow. And I completely agree with you, because of course, if you are trying to change a society, society involves both gender.
Yes.
And so if you work so hard to just empower one group of gender and you leave the others, the ignorance of the other is likely to influence the work that you have done. And I totally agree with you. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate the insight. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at other developmental areas on the continent. We'll be right back. Stay back.
Access access to healthcare has a direct impact on the quality of life of American citizens. The book, Perception of Physician Influence on Healthcare Accessibility, answers the major questions in the healthcare system, the problems it faces, and the possible solutions available. It throws a light on accessibility to healthcare in the USA and the role physicians play in making this possible. The author, Dr. Samuel Jacobs-Abbey, is the Executive Director of the Jacobs-Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies. He is an expert in healthcare management and policy and specializes in global health diplomacy and public health policy. He is a frequent speaker at the United Nations. This is a must-read for all physicians seeking to make healthcare in America more accessible to their patients across the USA. If you don't like to read, you haven't found the right book yet. Get your copies of the book, Perception of Physician Influence on Healthcare Accessibility, on Amazon, Apple Bookstore, Kobo, Nook, Google Books, Publishers, and all major digital bookstores across the globe. Contact Dr. Samuel Jacobs-Abbey via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn through the JA Global Institute. Get your copies now.
Hello, welcome to Jacobs-Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies, a research, teaching, training, and leadership institute that critically provides strategic transformational thinking to leaders and students with the opportunity to develop and create lasting impact in their institutions. Championed by a world-class faculty, one-on-one executive coaching, and peer learning, our programs are offered both online and in cohort sessions. Jacobs-Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies partners with academic institutions, civil society organizations, local communities looking to accelerate the impact of their leaders, more effectively engage teams, and build inclusive cultures of employee engagement and performance. We offer courses such as certificate, diploma, and advanced diploma in counseling psychology, marriage counseling, applied psychology, child mental health, conflict and peace studies, international human rights law, security and governance, and in gender studies. For enrollment, email enroll@jaglobalinstitute.org or visit us online at jaglobalinstitute.org.
Our break, and once again, I'm still here with Edith. She's the managing director of the Joyce-Banda Foundation International, based in Malawi and also in South Africa and in the US. And she's presently speaking to me all the way in Malawi, taking care of some official businesses there. And so, Edith, welcome back to Change Makers Forum.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So now let's shift our attention now to Africa as a whole and its challenges that Africa is facing. Recently, we saw that Dr. Samira Suluhu became the Tanzanian acting president upon the demise of the current president, may so rest in peace. But she joins the likes of your wonderful mother, Excellency Joyce-Banda, and Elif Salif Johnson, also the former president of Liberia, among other women who have taken charge of countries. Now, my question to you, Edith, is that I know you are a women advocate. You are very passionate when it comes to activities of women. But the question is that how confident are you that in the near future women will play a significant role both in Africa and in the world?
Well, first, I think we should give Africa some credit. I think we've done better than other continents when it comes to women's leadership. The country that has the most women in parliament is on the continent, Rwanda. In us, also, Africa has had, well, it was 5, now 6 women leaders, presidents, I should say.
Yeah.
So we've had 6 presidents compared to other parts. I think that we are heading the right way. If you look at the United States, it's actually the first time where they have a female vice president for the first time. And like I said, we've had now 6 presidents. So I think Africa has done better regardless of, and I think also if we look back before colonization, we always had queens, we always had women leading. Somehow the narrative changed when we began to be colonized. But Africa has always had women as leaders, if we look back at our history. And so we are just claiming that back. In, like I said, but for mostly, we can't go anywhere without our men supporting us. I can only speak from what I've experienced through my mother, is that I know that she would not have been where she is if she didn't have a supporting husband, very supportive husband. So my dad was always there supporting her with her journey. And so it's good for us to realize and recognize that we don't do this by fighting men. We do this by working together. That's the only way we can achieve and do the same things and realize that women can also lead just like men can, but not through fighting and not through this, violence and all that stuff. So,
well, you mentioned something that caught my attention. I have done a lot of work, but I've never been able to link that gap where you mentioned that before colonization, women have always been at the forefront of leadership in Africa. I recall in history the likes of the Yas and Tuas from Ghana and all those great women who led and fought battles. And it's interesting you were able to put that connection together. And I think it's about time the world get to understand that the issue of women leadership did not start because women are not ready, but because women have always been part and parcel of leading. But the systemic approach where women were relegated either through religious narratives, either through colonial mindset, and push women all the way to the back. But I like the fact that you said that women are taking their rightful place back, and it is important that every woman listening to this show needs to come to that realization that you cannot do it alone. We need a partnership of men to support the effort in order to achieve the goal. Thank you very much for bringing that perspective. Now, let's go a little deeper into some area of discussion. So I know, like every institution, there are challenges, obstacles, hurdles that you need to always overcome. But with the global pandemic and its impact on organization, how has the COVID pandemic affected the work of the Jacobs-Abbey Foundation International? I'm asking this question in particular because now look at the number of people that you reach out to in terms of providing financial resources, in terms of providing micro finance programs, in terms of providing food to school children. And suddenly with this coronavirus and its impact, everything I understand has shifted. There's a new approach to doing things. How has that impacted the work of the foundation?
It has affected it in terms of when people were locked up. You realize that there's girls that were pregnant in most communities, especially in Africa. Girls became pregnant as young as 10 years old, and which was very disheartening. But I also always say that this pandemic is more like a thing of the affluent. They they don't understand the lockdown. So even if we're talking about there's lockdowns, we do this, we can't bring the food. We continued our deliveries of the food because whichever way they have to eat.
That's right.
And the program was started because the kids couldn't afford to eat. And so that part itself, we had no choice but to do. But the schools were closed. It affected it, especially in the beginning, because we feed these kids at these orphan care centers. And they're inside one classroom together, and we couldn't keep them together like that. So either there were several places we would choose to just do it outside and just spread them out. But as far as the girls in school, most girls, not just at the Joyce-Banda Foundation, but nationwide, were affected by it. We saw a lot of increase in pregnancies.
Wow. So, wow. Yeah, because I was just thinking aloud that with all this going on, what will be the psychological and the social impact of these children and girls that your foundation supports? And I think you hit the nail right there, that the immediate after effect is that a lot of these young people became pregnant and all that. But it goes to underscore the fact that, does Africa in itself don't we have our own way of managing crisis? Because the West said, well, we need to how do you call it? We need to lock down, but the people themselves don't have the resources to be able to lock down. And so it's kind of a challenge. What do you think?
It's one of those where Africa, because in Malawi, for instance, almost 80% is rural. And so when you say lockdown, it doesn't make sense. I don't think we are ready for that.
Right.
And then we go a little bit spiritual, because I'll say, the Bible says, God did not create the spirit of fear. Mm-hmm. And so you find that right now here in Malawi, you find some of us that here are in the cities are all covered up in masks and stuff like that. You go to the villages, nobody's wearing them.
Nobody's wearing
them. So there's no fear. For some of us, there's fear that has been created because we hear the social media, the news. You see people dying. You see these are things that they probably are not seeing. So then you start to wonder, is it not here in the villages? And they say it's here, but they're probably even if it gets to them, they're probably thinking it's not corona, it's something else, but there's no fear. I know a number of people that have died because of fear. They just told you you're positive. Fear kicks in because they know that somebody else died because, so as far as being prepared as African countries, I think it was a difficult thing for us to just say, let's lock down. Number one, people go to sell food to find something that they can eat for that evening. So if you lock them down, they don't have refrigerators. They don't have food that even if they were to have an opportunity to find meat that day, they're not going to be able to store that. So right. People eat day to day. They go to sell something so that they get something. It's a day to day thing. So you say lockdown, and then what?
That's true.
That's true. So the programs are even harder to find to do here in Africa. I think that God just really watches over us because you walk everywhere. I know that here in the cities, the police are actually in places where if they see you without a mask, you get fined and stuff like that. But as soon as you leave Blantyre or Lilongwe, they're not wearing
it. Nobody cares.
They actually start to make fun of you. So say, oh, so you're the one who's bringing them to us.
Wow.
when they see
Wow.
you wearing a mask. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I pray that this pandemic will be over quickly and life will return back to normalcy, and the good work that you and the foundation is doing will continue to grow. So let me ask you again. So in 2019, you were a recipient of the Dr. Nina Lynn Mayoff Leadership Award. This award is usually bestowed on only individuals who have distinguished themselves and have demonstrated a commitment to excellence in their career and exemplary leadership within their communities in the area of promoting global human rights. Now, how has this recognition empowered your work, um, especially I know the answer already because you don't need an award to be inspired because you have always been an inspiring woman. And one of the things that I admire about you is that you are always a go-getter. But some way, somehow, you know, uh, recognition matters because it brings the best out of people. So I wanted to find out if this recognition, some way, somehow, have impacted your work.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much. And you probably don't have an idea of what it did to me. It motivated me. It brought out even, I think, the best out of me. And sometimes when you're doing the work, you don't think somebody else is watching. And so when somebody else says that, and you're like, oh, wow. And so it just encourages you to do more. So, while I'm here in Malawi, I'm also running the Jacobs-Abbey Foundation schools. So that leadership part that says, okay, well, I can do it. Somebody else, they recognize me. I'm actually running the Jacobs-Abbey Foundation schools. I'm running the Jacobs-Abbey Foundation International. And then we have a radio station called Ufulu Radio. I'm also running that. And I got to that because, unfortunately, about a month ago, I lost my older brother to COVID, actually. Yeah. And so some of these are, they're family things. And so I found he's gone and then I'm having to do all these things. Yeah. So then I'm taking that leadership part because he was the oldest and then me. So, then I find myself being there and doing all these things. And so just to be recognized, I mean, like I said, so it's like the sky's the limit. I can do anything. I was recognized by Jacobs-Abbey, Jacobs-Abbey. So, it's like, it was really so encouraging for me. I was very excited.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So before we take a quick break and then we'll wrap up our conversation, in your profile, you had mentioned that you are a member of the Preserving Indigenous Language, the Africa team. Tell me a little about, because a lot of people do not understand when we talk about preservation of indigenous language. And I clearly think that indigenous languages are extinct. And so tell me a little about it before we take a quick break.
So we came up with that because we feel that for some reason we're brainwashed by the colonization. I mean, even here in Malawi, you find that people all of a sudden are stopping from speaking our languages and going into English. And I think we also do it. So I'll also touch up on even women's empowerment, even trading, they feel intimidated sometimes to come all the way to the city because maybe they don't speak the language. But women across borders, in the borders surrounding whether Malawi or Ghana and Nigeria or they still do cross-border trading using our indigenous languages. Mm-hmm. But it's just now as we start to get educated and, I think we will, because of the mindset that's been going on for a long time, is still going on now. And then you find that some languages, you don't even hear about them. So how do we preserve that? We need to make sure that we're proud of, because you will never find a Japanese president trying to speak English.
There's
always a translator, you know.
That's correct.
But I find that most African countries, even the francophones, they're always trying to speak French.
That's true.
You know, and then us, you know, we're always trying to speak English and forgetting our own languages. Even
I mean, it is true you said this because, you know, even here in the United States, I once in a while bump into people who originally come from the same tribe that I came from. And they come to your offices and you start speaking the local dialect with them and they start speaking English to you. And okay, so I look at them and I was like, okay, I'm not dumb, but there's a reason why I'm talking to you in the local language because I wanted us to have that connection. But most of if you walk into any institution in the US and you see a Spanish fellow, irrespective of which country they came from, as long as they speak Spanish, they will quickly change the dialect into Spanish. It's not that they are trying to say something secretly, but they are trying to preserve
their own
language. And I think it's important that we come to that understanding. Thank you so much for standing on that path. And these are some of the things that inspires me so much about your work. But we will be right back. Stay back. Welcome back from our break. And once again, I have been speaking to Edith. Edith, like I said, she's the managing director of Joyce-Banda Foundation International. And herself, she's an entrepreneur. She's a women and human rights advocate. She's one of the few individuals who believe that indigenous languages should be preserved. And so we are here to wrap up our discussion. So Edith, let me ask you this question. This question I've asked many individuals who have been a guest on my show. And the question is, do you think that Africa can unite as one United States of Africa? If so, why? And if not, why not?
Right now, I think not. Africa, first of all, we didn't know any borders before. We were one. And I'm sure we can tell that, especially when we're outside Africa. Let's say we're in the US, when we meet another African, immediately we embrace each other. So that's, as a people, that's how we are. But we've been divided for so long. And then I think also we have so many different cultures and different languages. Even within one country, you already have issues. And, you know, so I kind of feel like it will be difficult to unite as one. Although I think that we can unite in terms of trading.
Okay.
I feel like we should remove the visas. We should be able to travel free to any country in Africa. We can open up the borders and we can do free trading. When it comes to that, I think we should do that. And I think we would be very powerful within Africa itself. But as far as, let's say, us being united and having one president,
but the truth is that everyone that I've interviewed on this show seems to toe the same line as you, that they don't believe that uniting and having one country as a continent is possible, because they feel that some part of the African continent is primarily dominated by the French, and France still have domicile authority over the francophone countries. And at the same time, you also hit the nail right there that even one country, let's say for instance, Nigeria alone has over thousands and thousands of different tribes and languages, and that in itself alone, the country has not even united, let alone becoming a regional organization. So, I strongly think that, in my opinion, I don't think we need to copy what the West is doing, because if the fact that you have the United States of America, and if you read the history of America and how the Union was formed and all those battles, we don't really need to do that.
No.
I always say that Africa has a very unique case. So we can have a Southern African group, regional integration, West African regional integration, East African regional integration, and then we have overall African integration, just as you rightly said, do trade in between, free movement and all that. So I think that you hit the nail right on the end. So let me ask you this as we wrap up. So what is next for you and the Joyce-Banda Foundation International in post-pandemic era?
For me right now, I am going to be mostly here in Africa. I feel
does that mean I'm losing you here?
Well, I think you should come to Malawi. That's what you should do.
I would love to come. I would love to come back.
I feel that I am more valuable here at home. I feel that I can make a difference here more than I can in the US. I still love the US. The US has molded me. I think that the US has some type of work ethic that I learned from the US, from being in the US. And I think that bringing that here at home too helps me a lot. And that's why I'm able to juggle. You know how we did it. We went from school to work to school to work. And that's how I'm able to even juggle what I do here. But I there's a lot of, I think Africa is the place to be. I think Africa,
I agree 100%.
Yes, and there's a lot that can be do. You know, they always say that those that do well are the ones that come up with solutions. And so, being here, I think would help me work on things that, okay, how do we solve certain things? There's certain things that have remained the same for decades and decades and years. Africa needs to start solving its own thing. And I'll touch up on a little bit on the on the vaccine. I feel like it's like somebody bringing you a toy and say, here it is, do you want some? And we're actually begging for the vaccine because we don't have anybody doing our own research. So there's a lot that can happen here by ourselves on the continent. It doesn't have to be in Malawi, just like in Madagascar, they said they had found something. Why don't we look at that and improve on that? And Africa needs to start doing things on its own. And we can. Yeah, I think we're brilliant. We're resilient. Yeah.
I totally believe it. And talking about the vaccine, one of the questions that I asked was, okay, so you have Pfizer, you have Moderna, you have AstraZeneca and all that. So what happened to us as Africa with all our traditional herbal medication? And so I went to the World Health Organization websites to look at how much resources are they investing in research and development of alternative medicine, traditional medicine, and it's 2% of its budget. And that caught my attention and was very alarming to realize that. Does that mean that African leaders themselves, because we have research institutes in Nigeria, we have one in Tanzania, we have one in Ghana, so you have one in Malawi.
Right.
So what the question is, wouldn't they be able to come out with their own scientific research into these vaccines?
Yes. We need our own. There's so many things.
Because the reason is because even folks in the US who either got COVID or came closer to people who were exposed to COVID, they were doing the same thing we do in Africa. They were inhaling, they were doing hibiscus and covering themselves, and they are getting well. So
bitter cola.
That's right. It's unfortunate that our leadership always look out to the West for help. But I thank God for the likes of your mother, Salif Johnson, and others who stood on their ground to ensure that we can develop within and raise folks like you who will stand for the truth at all times. It's indeed a pleasure talking to you, Edith. And once again, thank you so much. But before we go, I want to give you the opportunity to say your last words to our listeners, and then we can wrap it up.
No, I think for me, it's just been a joy and a pleasure to be on your show, and I really appreciate you. And I also believe in the mentorship of the girl child or the boy child starts in the home. I also believe that when a girl is raised by a father, they grow up being confident, same as the boy. And I think that we as Africans, that's already our culture. They always say it takes a village, and that is so true. And so I just pray that we can all come together as Africans and start to get our own things together, start to get our own solutions together, start to unite as a people. We are united, but I think it's when you get to the top when things start to change, because there's still the influence of the West. And so, but I believe in Africa. And so let's get this pandemic somehow over so we can change our continent. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Edith, once again for being on our show. And I look forward post-pandemic for me to step into Malawi again. That will be my third time coming to Malawi.
Yes.
And I will be so grateful to see you and the work that you and your family is doing. Once again, thank you so much. And so, folks, I just want to thank you once again for listening to this powerful interview with my good friend, Edith. And I hope you will share it with all your friends, and you will continue to follow the work that the Jacobs-Abbey Foundation is doing all the way in Malawi and its surrounding neighbors. Once again, I wish all of you the best of luck, and thank you for being part of our show. Have a blessed day. Thank you.